Hello. Welcome, everybody. I have a full face for you to start out here. I've been messing around again with the camera work and everything. And one of the things I discovered is it's almost impossible to do this and not try and watch my face. Now, it's okay when I'm spinning and I'm watching my spinning. That's very good and helpful. And I know I got the camera right and everything. But when you're doing this kind of thing, if I look over here, you can see my eyes move. And if I look over here, it looks like I'm not looking at the camera. I don't know how streamers do it that do full face. Maybe they just don't care. And maybe I shouldn't care. I don't know. But I thought I would just give you a little bit of a look of my workspace. Behind me here, it is technically always been called the computer room, and it's been also always been called the guest bedroom. It's now has become my live streaming studio, and that is a good and a bad thing because hubby no longer comes in here. He's got his own little computer and computer space since I had to get a new one, and that's okay. But it's rapidly becoming cluttered with things that I'm spinning or want to spin or have spun or whatever. The bed behind me is claimed by my cat. His name is Newman, but he is not going to be here today. I have the door closed. I let him come in on Sundays, and I do live stream Sunday afternoon, U.S. Eastern Standard Time, from 3 to 5 o'clock. And that is a really good time to come and chat, see the cat, maybe if he's in the mood, and all that sort of thing. Hello, Froggy, JJ. Welcome. How are you today? We're going to get started here on the teaching in a little bit, but I have learned that Twitch likes to cut off the first couple 5 minutes. So, I just don't get going right away and on what I want to teach. And thank you for the follow. Oh, you didn't get to see. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong screen for you to see the follow. Maybe I ought to go ahead and move. All these people coming in. Welcome, welcome. Doughy Mess. I don't even know where that name, what made you come up with that name, but hopefully that means you're a baker and you like to bake, and that would be good. Let me change my screen here. This is my teaching screen. Now you all could see, if I hadn't been off that screen, you could see that little sheep dance for your follow. But anyway, thank you and welcome. Doing good today. We are having fall weather, and I love fall weather. That's my favorite time of year, and I'm really glad to have the weather cool off, the humidity go down, and all that sort of thing. We're going to, as you can see by the camera work here, spin fiber from angora rabbits. And I thought I would just give a little brief introduction to the angora rabbit for those who are maybe only think of them as fluffy bunnies, which they are, but they have had a long history of providing fiber, and angora yarn has had a long history of being delightful to wear and a very special luxury yarn. And there's a reason for that because all angora yarn is from rabbits. It looks like this when it starts off, when it's taken off the rabbit. It's highly intensive to spin. It can be mill spun, and it is. Production of mill spun angora yarn generally takes place in China, and that is something they do where they have just massive barns full of the rabbits, and they have to cut that fiber off of the animal in the same way that you shear a sheep, but not the same way because you can't really shear a rabbit. Body's too small, there's a lot of little wrinkles and everything, so generally scissors are used. So it's very labor intensive. But that's not to say that it's not perfect for an individual because you don't have to have barn full of rabbits. You can have one. If you're a spinner, one rabbit, especially the longer breeds, which I will get into. Um, Thank you, Doey Miss. I appreciate that. She says it's very interesting, and I appreciate that. That's why I'm here. By the way, both of your names are new to me, so I'll just let you know that Wednesdays I tend to teach. I don't cheat. Where did that come from? I tend to teach something. And on Sundays I have a spin in, and that is just come and chat, and we'll chat about anything that you're working on. It doesn't have to be spinning or anything, and it doesn't have to be spinning here either. But if it's interesting to you, I really appreciate it. I enjoy spreading the word about spinning yarn and teaching how to do it. So let's get back to the rabbits. An individual, you can have a rabbit as a pet. You can have them in the house. The only caveat to that is they chew, and they like to chew. So you have to make sure that you give them plenty of things that they can chew on safely, so that it's not your electrical cords and that sort of thing. It's not unlike what I hear some cats and dogs will also do, but rabbits are genetically bred to chew because their teeth grow, and the only way they can keep their teeth from growing too long is to chew on something. They actually use that to whittle their teeth down. So, yeah, they are chewers. So that's the only caveat about having a pet rabbit. Other than that, they are really affectionate if they're handled often, which you need to do with the angoras, because you need to brush them and just have them in your lap and have them be used to being handled, because that's the best way to keep the fiber good for you to spin. So a rabbit is a good house rabbit is a good pet and can provide fiber if you're a spinner. I know a lot about rabbits because I raised them for about 15 years. I had as many as 30 to 35 in my barn all the time, and I raised two specific breeds. Now, there are four breeds in all of the Angora rabbit. There is French, there is Satin, there is Giant, and there's English. And they're all distinctive. They all have different kind and length of fur. They're all raised for different reasons, and they yet their fiber is all this basic, soft, fluffy bunny fur. You're going to get that with a few little bits of differences between the breeds. The real short rundown is the English is the cutest, and it has what you would say an average fiber length and softness. It's very, very soft, and it has not many guard hairs. The English is the one that most people are familiar with the picture, and they have a little top knot right here between their ears, and a little fluff all over around their face. They're very, very, they have a lot of hair on their face, and that's what a lot of people are familiar with. The the French is called the like smooth breed in the sense that they don't have that hair on their face. Their fiber is also about average length. It has a little more guard hair than the English, so it has occasional times that it'll be a little stiffer and that sort of thing. So that's that is what they call the smoother breed. All of these rabbits come in all sorts of different colors, with the exception of the next one, which is the giant. The giant is the largest. It will weigh quite a bit more and be bigger than all the other breeds, and it is almost generally always white. This is the rabbit that is bred commercially for Angora yarn. They like to have that massive amount of coat in order to harvest for the Angora yarn commercially. And the last one is called satin. And satin is because it has a little bit of a clear bead on the end of their tip of their hair follicle. And now this is not something you can see other than microscopic, but that bead catches the light and it makes it a little shiny, and so they're called satins. They are about the smallest of the four breeds. They also have the shortest fiber. There's absolutely no guard hair in there at all, and it is extremely short no matter how much you let it grow. The rabbit will molt and shed that fiber long before it gets length like the English and French and the giant. So that's your four breeds of sheep, just in a little nutshell. And what I raised was French and satin over all these years, and that's the fiber that I have here. Now you're not going to see, this looks like it's satin, right? It looks like it's all shiny, but that is reflecting, the white is reflecting the light. And this is actually from a French. And this is the satin. And so the shine that I talk about is very subtle because it's still very, very fluffy. And you're just really not going to see it off of the animal. But on the animal, a lot of times you look at that rabbit and you look at the coat and you, oh, that is so pretty. And the satins also have more colors to them, or maybe they have the colors that they seem to be more intense because of that way that hair follicle is developed. So that is, how did I get the fiber? That's the next thing. How do you get the fiber off the rabbit? Actually, it's called plucking, and it does not hurt the rabbit. That's one of the main things that I have taught over and over and over and over when I was demoing with rabbits or whatever. They are shedding that fur so that when you take your hand, you have your rabbit in the lap, and you take your hand and you lay it so that you're holding the base of the lock. It's not a lock, but the fiber. You're holding the base of the fiber, and you pull like that. Only what has released will come off. Sometimes it does go down to skin because the rabbit is molting. It is losing its coat. And you want to make sure that you get that coat off of them before they try to chew it off and ingest it. And that is nothing but a potential death hazard if they eat too much fur. Also, the rabbits are not bred, but the rabbits have developed genetically for the females to be able to pull fiber because they stuff their nests. Their babies are born with no fur at all, and they're born any time of the year. So, it's like they have to be able to protect those newborns that have no way of keeping warm. Mother rabbits are also genetically driven to hide their nests and to be away from the nest. So they can't even use their own body to keep the babies warm. So for that reason, they have to put a whole bunch of fiber in there, just like they were in that nest with those babies. I always thought that was so interesting. And I live on acreage, and so I have lots of wild rabbits, and I have found rabbit nests. And, they do exactly the same as a wild rabbit as they did in my barn when they went into their nesting boxes, stuffed it full of hay or straw or whatever they could get that I gave them in there, and made their nest and then just lined the dickens out of it with their own fur. It was pretty interesting. And baby rabbits was the absolute best part for me of raising rabbits. That was my reward. Ton and ton and ton of work, keeping everything clean, keeping them fed and watered, and keeping them groomed. It was a large amount of work, but the baby rabbits were the reward because when they came out of that nest, they had their coat. You got to see what colors you got, and you had all these little baby bunnies running around in the cage, and it was just absolutely adorable. Angora fiber is one of the things that really started me spinning again. I had spun and put it aside for many years, and the Angora rabbits came along because I went to the state fair and I said, oh, hey, I like these animals. They're so cool, so soft. I want to raise them. I had a barn. by then, and I set it all up for the cages and started raising rabbits. But then I had this fiber and I had to learn how to spin it, and I did. I taught myself how to spin it. So let's me turn around here so that I know that you're going to have a side view, but let me make sure I have the camera on the fiber here because I want to talk a little bit about what makes it good to spin. So this is exactly how it comes off the rabbit. This looks, okay, if you are used to wool, you know that you can take a wool lock and grab each end and pull it apart like that. You cannot do that with angora fiber. It does not come off in a distinct lock at all. It is fluff all the way around. It's just fluff. So the only thing I'm going to do as I'm working with going through this before I get it ready to spin is find what's matted. Just like a cat and a dog with long hair, the rabbit will develop mats, and that's a mat right there. You can't pull it apart, you can't spin that, you can't really do anything with that, and so that has to go away. But you do need to take that off the rabbit so that it starts growing another coat underneath where that is. This particular batch of fiber that I had left over from a satin had a lot of mats, and for that reason I would have, if I sold it at all, sold it as seconds. I would not have sold it as prime, which is what they will list the angora fiber as if it has no mats. So I had just a little bit of a mat there, but I could pull a fair amount off, and that's what I'm doing. So I have some of it saved. It's kind of like taking a wool lock apart, not drafting it, but picking it apart. And you can see this is just falling apart. Now, spinning angora is one of the things that spinners find to be very difficult because it is unlike wool. And first of all, a lot of spinners start spinning wool first, and so they're very used to what wool feels like, and it's very different from spinning wool. But second of all, a wool hair follicle, as you go down the follicle, has what's called scales, and the scales will point in a specific direction. It's kind of, if you think of like an unopened bud of flower, they wrap that follicle and they all point in one direction. And if you spin against them, you'll feel that roughness, and if you spin with them, it'll feel slightly smoother. It's a very slight feeling. But the difference between wool and angora is angora hair follicle has no scales. So for that reason, there is nothing for one fiber to catch on to the next one. When you're spinning wool, and you have your fibers lined up together, you are not going to spin one hair follicle. You can only spin the lock, which is a whole group of hair follicles. So in that sense, they're laying beside each other with their scales hitting each other, and that connects them and it makes it easy to make your thread, your yarn. Well, there's not that advantage with angora because angora has no scales. So that's the biggest reason it feels, first of all, super soft. That and the fact it has very, very little guard hair. And the second reason it feels that real softness is because it does not have those scales. If you are a spinner and you want to relate what spinning angora is like, I would say it's closest to spinning very short alpaca and not so much silk. Silk has, especially natural silk, even though it has a reputation for being slick to spin, it has some grabbiness to it. It's not from follicles, but it's just the natural nature of silk. So it doesn't relate to silk as much as it does alpaca. And the alpaca needs to be pretty short. If you run into long alpaca, then it's not going to make you feel like it does to spin angora. Now, what I'm getting ready to do is the best way to handle any angora that you want. And I got to move my camera here a little bit so you can see. What I have is called hand cards. And I do use this for wool also. And those of you who are spinners are very familiar with this. But when you card angora, it's going to be very flyaway. And you want to go very slow and easy. And I'm still not in the camera here. Let me... Oh my goodness, you two, thank you for the subscriptions. Oh, are you look, you made my sheep. See there, you made my sheep jump. I heart you two. I heart you both. Thank you so much. Ah, that is so nice. Okay, so these are hand cards, and we're going to just go very slow, and I'm going to actually add some more, a little bit more. But it brushes the fiber and aligns it so that it's all going the same direction. This is why I don't want any mats in there. I want to be nice and smooth, no knots, and I want to end up with fiber on both. So this is how you get it transferred. You go backwards, and then you just do this some more. This is called hand carding. Now, angora, there are many ways to process fiber, but angora does best with hand carding. Particularly the satin, which is so short. And I have just worked here to roll it off. It's called a roll log. Now it should be nice and smooth, but I don't have it nice and smooth. I've got a little bit of clumped up right there and right there. So I'm just going to take those off. I'll card, I don't need to throw them away. They're not matted. I'm just going to make my yarn a little bit smoother. So that is a roll log. I'm going to do one more real quick. I've got to watch my time here. I'm all right. I'm going to do one more, and then we'll spin this satin. Maybe I won't make this one as thick. Daddy Croon, are you here? Well, thank you for the subscription. Have you ever seen Daddy Croon? Have you ever seen Angora rabbits? That's what we're spinning. I used to raise them. I don't know if you just popped in, but I used to raise them. I don't anymore. Too much work. Aren't you streaming? Daddy Croon streams. Aren't you streaming right now? I guess not. Or you're hosting. I don't know. Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for joining me. All right. We're going to spin this. This is as soft as, I mean, soft as a kitten. You know, it is just amazingly soft. Also, it might be the first time you hear me sneeze on a live stream because it tickles your nose. It is very flyaway. That's why I have an apron on. and it doesn't matter. It's just going to go everywhere because it is. It's just really fly away. I am spinning on my electric. It is an electric spinning wheel. It's called a Roberta. And the main reason is because I know I'm not going to be, this is each one of these is 1 ounce of fiber. I know I'm not going to have a whole lot of fiber. And so these are the smaller bobbins. I have a bigger spinning wheel that has bigger bobbins. Spinning is just a matter of spinning exactly the same way that wool or whatever you are used to spinning, in the sense that you are going to pull it out and make a drafting zone and then keep a pinch, because this is making twist, run right down there to where I have stopped it at my fingers. And then when the bobbin goes around, the wheel pulls that onto the bobbin. So it's a pinch, pull, slide, pinch, pull, slide. This is why you wanted your fiber all nice and aligned by carding it, because it's very easy to pull out. Now all of you have to realize I have been spinning angora off and on, for 22 years. So, yes, it looks real easy. It's real easy. It's real easy. Just stick with it. This is called a single. I will take and either double it back over on itself to make a double, or ply it with another one, but ultimately a second strand will be added to this, because yarn is always a multiple ply, 2, 3, 4. Very rarely do you work with a yarn that is a single. Okay, what am I doing different to spin angora that I would do from spinning wool? Well, I'm going slower. This rotation here is slower. I have less tension. In fact, I totally took the tension off of it. So this is not pulling onto the bobbin as hard, with as much tug as it would if I was spinning wool. I want a real light touch. So Froggy, JJ, Doughy Mess, are you spinners? I'm interested to know. Daddy Croon makes lovely leatherwork. I know what he does. When he's working. Doughy Mess says, no, neither one of you are spinners, but I do sew and embroider. Okay. Well, this is wonderful. I really appreciate you coming by to watch, and I hope this is something that you want to learn eventually. And if you have questions, please ask. Doughy Mess says, I'm trying to embroider a little baby deer while I'm watching you at the moment. And Froggy JJ said, I don't do any crafts, but it is very relaxing to watch. I have had other people tell me that watching spinning is very relaxing. Now, it is very relaxing for me to spin. I most certainly do it to relax. I'll watch TV while I'll do it or whatever. I also knit, and I don't really relax when I knit. Some knitters do, but I don't. I'm always watching a pattern, or, it's just, spinning is something I can do and really relax. I wish there was a way to convey how soft this is. It is just like, well, it is. It's bunny fur. And you can see it starting to form on my bobbin there a little bit. That looks just like, let me get that. See there? You can see it starting to form there. That's the single, and it's very thin. That is intentional. It's pretty much what you want with angora. When you spin other stuff, you can make whatever thickness you want. And okay, I just hit a bump. I don't like the way it's just a little knot. I'm going to take it out of there. And when you do that, you just reconnect it and start over. Angora tends to stick to you also. It wants to really stick to you. Doey Miss says, I'd love to learn to spin, but I'm allergic to a lot of animals, so maybe not the best idea. Yes, I understand that totally. My daughter was allergic to wool, and she learned to spin all the other non-wool fibers because of not wanting to set off her allergy to wool. And for some very weird reason, she was pregnant, and after she had the baby, after her pregnancy was over, her body changed, and she, just for the heck of it, picked up some wool to work with and found out it gave her no reaction at all. So the allergy got reset during the pregnancy. I know that happens during pregnancy, but to have somebody actually experience it was pretty amazing. So now she spins wool and everything else. But that's not to say it's not going to happen if you're allergic. Okay, that's another good point. Some people say they have a really hard time spinning angora because it brings up their allergies. And I do want to say one of the things about angora fiber is rabbits hate to get wet. And they hate to get wet for a reason. Rabbit fur will not dry. I mean, if this had been washed, if I would dunk this in water and wash it, the first thing that would happen is it wouldn't take the water. It would just sit on top of the water. It is so water resistant. But the second thing that would happen is once it got wet, it won't release the water. And so if you have it on a rabbit and the rabbit happens to get wet, you have a very wet rabbit for a very long time. And this will also stay wet for a very long time. Now, wool dries real fast. And some of your other man-made fibers, like bamboo and tencel and that sort of thing, is sort of in the middle. But angora is probably the worst fiber to try and get dry. First of all, you can't put a fan on it because it's going to be all over your room. So, it has to dry by natural air and out in the sunshine or whatever. So, what that means is 99% of the time, the angora fiber you're going to get is straight off the bunny and has not been washed. And it has all that dander. And the dander is what most people say causes the allergies, like for cats and dogs and that sort of thing. They'll say, oh, well, it's not really the dander, or it's the dander, but I have my own cat and I'm used to their dander and it doesn't bother me, my allergies. Same thing with the angora. What you're really reacting to if you're trying to spin angora is the fact that it has the natural dander that we all have if you have hair and fur. Okay, I am going to go ahead and put this up for right now. So as I said, I was just going to spin a little bit as a demo today, but I will go ahead and finish this bobbin another day and have it to put into my yarn supply. But I can just put the bobbin up for now. and I can put the fiber up for now. And since it's so floaty and everything, I'm going to put it back in its old Ziploc bag. The music's not very loud. I was concerned that it would overwhelm my talking because of balance. Now all I'm doing here is cleaning out the fiber that is still kind of hanging around from the thing, from that last carding. Carding and combing are not the same things. This is carding. My brain is working too fast here. Okay. Now we're going to work with the white. And as I said, this is from French. Again, there are no distinct locks. I got a little bit of a shortcut there. All of this is my fiber, and when I was grooming my rabbits, I very rarely would use scissors to get the fur off. It was better for the rabbit to actually pluck it. Because then its coat would grow in better to have that base still there. Put a little bit more on here. Now this is white, and so often spinners will dye white fiber. Absolutely works with angora. I have over the years made some very vivid pinks and purples and greens, kind of Easter egg colors, you know. I did not use Easter egg dye. I was using just regular. You know, I take that back. One time I did use Easter egg dye. Put the dye in a quart jar, put the fiber in the quart jar and let it sit and take the dye. I did do that once. So you can see that the process is exactly the same, but a little nicer because this fiber is longer, and that makes it card up nicer. Got one little bit here I don't like. I get it started with the other card, but then I roll it off like this. Can you see? Am I in camera? Yes. And you can also see that I got a smoother, much smoother than the other one. Just this one little bit right there. And that also is, this is considered prime. When you buy fiber, the breeder should be grading it. And prime is, as I said, absolute, not dirty, no knots and that kind of thing, and just nice, open, fluffy fiber. I'll do a second one here. And there is fiber fluff floating all over. That's enough to make people say, I don't think I want to do that. Don't ask, how did I learn this stuff? I am self-taught mostly, because when I started spinning in the mid-1970s, There was no internet. There was just books and magazines. So there is a magazine that's been in existence for a long time called Spinnin', and that was one of my sources to learn, and books. But the second thing is, I really have developed, once you figure out the actual process of spinning, then it's just a matter of putting different fiber in your hands and that sort of thing, and figuring out how to spin it. The second thing is, I know a lot about angora because I raised the rabbits for so many years. Now let me change my bobbin here. And for those that are interested in the mechanics, am I on camera here? This is it's like a big O-ring that fits into the slot here on the bobbin and under here, which is the motor. And this could be, instead of a motor, it could be the treadle that you're used to seeing. And I have those kind of spinning wheels. I just happen to be using the electric today. But that's what makes the bobbin rotate. And then this is called a leader, which is just because it leads the fiber and single onto the bobbin, just to get started. And I had started the bobbin on the other one. This one I'm still starting, so you're going to see the leader. Kind of hard to tell because it's white. They're both white. Am I on? Yep. You can see my back hand is pulling the fiber away from the pinch of my front hand. My front hand is my right hand. I know sometimes it looks backwards with the camera, but my right hand is controlling that pinch, not letting it go into the fiber behind it until I get it all pulled out and straightened out. That is the basic concept of spinning any fiber. I pretty much spin every day. I retired 2 years ago, so it has increased more. It was not something I did every day while I was working full time. But now I pretty much spin every day. Now, when I stop that bobbin, I'm just turning a little switch on and off, turn the motor on and off. But when you're treadling, you just stop treadling. So what people have to learn when they're learning to spin is multitasking. You know, it's, you gotta treadle and watch your hands and have the fiber, and it sometimes it feels like a lot of things going on at once until it's like learning a bike. Once you learn it, it's pretty easy to never forget. And um, Doughy Mess, as far as your allergies, if it's there are many plant-based fibers, just like I was mentioning the bamboo and tencel, and then there is silk. So there is, which is not plant-based in that sense. I mean, obviously the silkworms make it, but there you don't have to use animal-based fibers to spin. And what I used to do for work is in the medical industry. I'm a medical technologist, which means I worked in the laboratory of whatever facility I worked in, running the blood tests. Technically, I was not the vampire. We had other people. Yes, linen. Daddy croon, that's flax. That comes from a plant. That's very true, too. Cotton. There's another one, cotton. So, and you don't have to buy the flax and the cotton raw and process it like I'm doing here with this fiber. You can buy it all ready to spin and just spin. You don't have to have a spinning wheel. You can spin with what's called a drop spindle. A little bit different technique than a spinning wheel, but still somewhat same concept of drafting the fiber and putting the twist in it. There you go, Doughy Miss. I have just earned my enabler star today. Yes, it really helps to have. Doughy Miss says maybe if I can find somewhere near me doing a class. That is so important. I will say when I really was getting back into it, I had had the spinning wheel for a while and that sort of thing, but I had all this angora fiber and I did find a person and I said, okay, I've been raising these rabbits. I love the rabbits, but I really want to find out if I can spin this fiber. And they showed me. So, you know, finding somebody to help you out. Daddy Croon is a Viking, and he's in the process of making a Viking tent. That is so cool. All right. I'm not real fond of camping on in in my self-defense. I live on 15 acres. I feel like I'm camping all the time where I live. So it's not a recreation for me because I'm not a city girl, but I definitely am fond of the outdoors. I just want my bed to go back to and sleep at night. But I do dress up now and then, take my spinning wheel. I used to take a rabbit sometimes and sit and spin from the rabbit, which meant that I would pluck off some of the fiber and card it and spin while the rabbit was sitting there next to me. I have never raised sheep though. I always support the other people, the shepherds that raise it. So, Daddy Croon wants to make a Viking bed. Can you explain what a Viking bed? I assume it is like ropes and mattress with ticking and you need to explain. I don't know. Do you have room to is it big? Should be up off the floor, I would think, because of the cold. Just exactly where were the Vikings from? I don't know that history well. I'm going to run out of time here. As soon as I finish this, I'm going to show how you combine angora with other fiber, specifically wool. So I want to make sure I can show that. Sides I can go over. Yeah, big hardwooden frame, and they're from Northern Europe. So not just before there were European countries, they were considered the Viking country. So I am going to let this run on and off this bobbin, because when I combine this angora with wool, I want to be able to spin it on a separate bobbin. Yep, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, yes. They were just from all over, but known because of the travel on the sea, correct? Right? I'm changing bobbins here while I'm got it going. Okay. Now what I have here is processed wool. This is a wool called Rambouillet. It is a breed that was created from merinos, which most people know. And it's very springy and it's very white. And what I'd like to do is blend it with this angora so that I have an angora wool blend. Why do that? Well, first of all, you have a little more tameable yarn. It's not as soft. It has some draping. When you knit with it, it'll drape different. You have it can make construction better because you have the firmness of the wool. This is extremely soft, as I think most people know. Merino is an extremely soft wool. So we want the softness still, but we can get a little more knitability, drapeability for garments, and still get the look of angora, but have that structure. So I've laid my angora on top, and I've laid the wool underneath. It's going to take several passes, which means it's just going to take several brushings. Daddy Kroon says there's evidence that Vikings sailed to Northern America around year 1000 from Denmark and Norway. Yep, I knew that they were seafaring. When I say it's going to take several passes, I mean the fact that I'm going to take it off of both combs and go both ways, because that merino was on the bottom. Now I want to make sure I get it mixed through. I don't want it just laying on the bottom. Okay. And that is a pretty good... I'm not sure I would get it exactly 50-50. I can't really do that unless I weigh it. And also, these are very small hand combs, and I have a very large version that is called a drum carder. And that drum carder is where I would make large bats. I very, very rarely do that with 100% angora. I'm almost always combining it with something like this Rambouillet. My nose is just like bugging the heck out of me. I got so much angora floating around. Obviously, I'm not allergic to it. It's not even going to make me sneeze, but I am very aware of it. See, this is the best kind of class ever. There's no tests. No raise your hands, answer a question. Just plain fun. Alright, I'm going to spin these two on one card here. I'm sure that's an interesting sound on the mic. All right. So if you really had it side by side, you would see that this is thicker. It's a little, I can only say woollier. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but you can see a difference. There's, you know, there's more grab there. There's more, there's less of that real fluffy fuzziness of the angora. And also, the tension needs to be a little different when I spin it because of the wool. So I'm going to put my little tension band back on. And got some oil on my fingers there. I'm going to go a little faster. I have a wobbly bobbin, but that's all right. And you'll notice that it's not going to be quite as smooth. All right, I need a little more pull in. Which is typical of this wool, but this particular Rambouillet that I had a little had quite a bit of bumps in it. It was processed by a local mill. After I bought the fleece right off the sheep and took it to the mill and they processed it. So if I move this. Hello, Mass Bandit. How are you today? Just about finished, and if you stick around, I can take you on a raid. We'll find somebody to raid. If anybody has suggestions, I'm open to suggestions. I have really enjoyed going and raiding. I have found so many fun streams to watch, both just as I'm poking around and raiding. Oh, you two know each other then. Maybe not, maybe not. I made an assumption, I shouldn't have. So what I'm currently spinning, oh, okay, yeah, I did. I stopped by earlier. And if she's still streaming, I'll go there. I don't know how long she'll stream. But right now, I've been spinning 100% angora, and right now I'm spinning a blend of Rambouillet, which is wool, and angora. If you... Oh, she finished? Okay. Yeah. And if you've been watching my hands, those of you that have been on, you'll see that this process is exactly the same. The twist is running down the single. I'm stopping it with the pinch right here. I'm pulling out the fiber behind it so that it's straight and sliding my finger down to let the twist run in. And that makes spun yarn called a single. Most yarn is a ply, so I will do this twice and put those two together, and those two will make a 2-ply yarn. I can use more than 2-ply. I can make a 3-ply, 4-ply, whatever I want. Okay. I didn't get a good join there, so we're going to start over. Get this. Joining is a matter of laying the fiber up above a little bit on your single and pulling it out and running it down. So if you want to catch the whole thing, if you haven't been here for the whole thing, then I know two of you have been, but go to my channel, and of course they're on there for a while. You can watch the beginning again, where I talked about the different breeds of rabbits and that sort of thing. You'll find I have a lot of clips, although I gotta start getting some more on there. Have done a number of teach-ins since then, not done the clips, but the clips are specific for whatever the topic was for the teach-in. And I stream twice, Thursday mornings and Sunday afternoons, and Thursday mornings are always teaching, and Sunday afternoons is just hanging out and spinning or working on whatever craft I want to work on, but it's most of the time it's spinning, chatting, listening to music. I look forward to those Sunday spin-ins because it really is relaxing for me. It's always a nice break. My name is Cindy. Cindy. I don't have a lot on my about page. I cannot figure out. I got the logistics of sitting down here in front of the camera and doing and talking and all that, but a lot of the stuff on the Twitch page and that sort of thing, I don't really have set up very good. And I don't pay for the Prime where it pops it right in there for you, so. Although those really do look good. I like the way they look. I'll get there eventually. All right. I am going to say that's it for today. And let's see if we can find somebody. Anybody been looking on something to suggest for? Because I don't have Twitch open. I'll open it, but I have Streamlabs open. Get small. Let's see here. Girl November's on. Oh, JK is on. I can, unless anybody has a better suggestion, I can do JK because I watch her all the time. See if this will work. Thank you all again for the subscriptions. You have made my day. I appreciate it. And you're welcome for the stream. I hope you join me again. All right, let's type this. No, not that. This. And I'm going to put my headset on because that's the only way I can hear a raid. before I hit the button. I like to hear people say hello. Thank you, everyone. See you. Uh oh, that didn't work. That's because I didn't spell it right. You get to hear me type. Bye. All right, there we go.
Is working on all the loving headbutts. Defend with loving headbutts, y'all, because that's what we do as Catacorns here. We defend with loving headbutts.